Listen, I remember exactly what it felt like to be 18 years old. I had big dreams, a lot of energy, and absolutely zero idea what I was doing with my money. I looked at wealthy people and thought they had some secret code, some magical ability to pick winning lottery tickets that I just didn't have. I was terrified of the future. I saw the student loans piling up. I saw the entry-level salaries that barely covered rent, and I felt that deep, sinking pit in my stomach that maybe I was just going to be stuck in the rat race forever. You know that feeling. It is the fear that you will work 40 years for a boss you hate just to retire when you were too old to enjoy it. But looking back now, I realize I had the one asset that is more valuable than any amount of money in the bank. I had time. If I could go back in a time machine and shake my 18-year-old self by the shoulders, I would tell him to stop chasing get-rich-quick schemes and stop listening to broke friends. I would tell him to focus on just 3 specific assets. If I had just bought these 3 things back then, I would have reached financial freedom 10 years earlier. The problem is that most of us are taught the old way of handling money. The old way says you should save every penny, skip the latte, and bury your money in a savings account that pays you practically nothing. We are told to play it safe. But playing it safe is actually the riskiest thing you can do when inflation is eating your cash alive. The new way, the way the rich actually build wealth, is not about saving. It is about ownership. It is about buying things that pay you while you sleep. When you were 18, you do not need to be a genius. You just need to be consistent. You need to understand that every dollar you spend today is a soldier you are sending away. But every dollar you invest is an employee that will work for you for the rest of your life. And the best part? These employees have children, and their children have children. That is the power of compound interest. But it only works if you buy the right things. So, let's cut through the noise. If I were starting over today with nothing but a few $100 and a hunger to be free, this is exactly what I would buy. The first asset I would buy immediately is what I call the foundation. When I was young, I thought investing meant picking the next Apple or Amazon. I thought I had to be smarter than Wall Street. I would sit there researching penny stocks, thinking I found a hidden gem, only to watch it go to zero. I was gambling, not investing. If I could restart, I would stop trying to find the needle in the haystack. I would just buy the whole haystack. The first asset is a low-cost, broad market index fund, specifically one that tracks the S&P 500. This isn't sexy. It isn't going to make you a millionaire by next Tuesday, but it is the single most powerful wealth-building tool in history. When you buy a share of an S&P 500 fund, you are not betting on one company. You are buying a tiny slice of the 500 largest, most profitable companies in America. You own a piece of Apple, Microsoft, Google, Tesla, and Amazon all at once.
Here is the math that schools forgot to teach us. If you invest just $100 a month into the S&P 500 starting at age 18, assuming the historical average return of about 10%, you could have over $1 million by the time you retire. That is with just $100 a month. If you wait until you were 30 to start, you would have to invest more than 3 times that amount every single month just to hit the same number. That is the cost of waiting. The magic here is that the S&P 500 is self-cleansing. If a company starts to fail, it gets kicked out of the index and replaced by a better growing company. You don't have to manage it. You don't have to stress about the news. You just keep buying. When I was 18, I was emotional. I would panic when the market went down. I would sell low and buy high, which is the exact opposite of what you should do. I didn't understand that a market crash is actually a sale. Imagine walking into your favorite clothing store and seeing everything is 50% off. You wouldn't run away screaming. You would buy everything you could carry. The stock market is the only place where people run out of the store when the prices drop. If I started again, I would program my brain to see red days as opportunities. I would set up an automatic transfer from my checking account every time I got paid, no matter how small the amount was. I would treat it like a bill I had to pay. Future me deserves to get paid before Netflix or Starbucks does. This asset is your safety net. It guarantees that you will be wealthy eventually. It takes the luck out of the equation. But let's be honest, you are young. You want to speed things up. You have a higher risk tolerance because you have decades to recover if things go wrong. That brings me to the second asset, While the S&P 500 is your defense, you need an offense. You need something that has the potential for explosive growth. If I were 18 today, I would allocate a portion of my portfolio to what I call the Accelerator. For our generation, the digital economy is moving faster than anything we have seen in history. The old guard of investors might tell you to buy gold or bonds, but those assets barely keep up with inflation. When you are young, you need asymmetric bets. An asymmetric bet is something where the downside is limited. You can only lose what you put in, but the upside is virtually unlimited.
For me, this second asset would be a focused investment in disruptive technology, or digital assets, specifically Bitcoin. Now, hold on. I am not telling you to dump your life savings into a meme coin or gamble on a picture of a monkey. I'm talking about understanding the future of money. When I was 18, the internet was just starting to change how we communicate. Today, blockchain is changing how we store value. Bitcoin has been the best performing asset of the last decade, crushing real estate, gold, and stocks. It is volatile, yes. It will crash 50% sometimes, but that volatility is the price you pay for performance. The reason I would buy this at 18 is simple. I can afford to be wrong. If I put 5% of my money into high-growth digital assets and it goes to zero, I'm young enough to make that money back in a few months of working. It won't ruin my life. But if I am right, if that asset goes up 10 times or 20 times, it changes my life completely. It provides the capital I need to buy a house, start a business, or retire early. The mistake I made back then was playing it too safe with all my money. I didn't take any calculated risks. I kept my money in cash, where it lost value every single year. Investing in the Accelerator is about recognizing that the world is changing. The companies and technologies that will dominate in 20 years might not even be in the S&P 500 yet. By allocating a small, consistent percentage to these high-growth areas, you are giving yourself a lottery ticket that actually has decent odds. But you have to have the stomach for it. You have to be willing to hold through the scary drops. That is why you never go all in. You have your foundation in the S&P 500 to keep you safe, and you have your Accelerator to make you rich. However, there is a trap here. Many young people get obsessed with the charts. They check their phone every 5 minutes to see if they are rich yet. I used to do this and it drove me crazy. It made me anxious and short-sighted. If I could start over, I would delete the apps from my phone. I would buy, hold, and go live my life. Wealth is not built by staring at a screen. It is built by letting time do the heavy lifting for you.
But here's the hard truth that nobody in the finance world wants to tell you. You can have the best investment portfolio in the world. You can pick the perfect stocks, and you can have the discipline of a monk. But if you are only investing $5 a month, you are never going to get rich. Math is brutally honest. 10% growth on $0 is still $0. That brings me to the third and absolute most important asset. This is the one that fuels the other two. Without this, the engine doesn't start. If I went back to 18, I would pour every ounce of my extra energy and money into the Multiplier, which is an aggressive investment in my own earning power. When I was young, I looked at money the wrong way. I thought the goal was just to hoard it. I was afraid to spend money on books, courses, or seminars because I thought I was losing cash. I would happily drop $60 on a video game or a night out with friends, but I would hesitate to spend $20 on a book about sales or negotiation. That was a poverty mindset. The wealthy understand that money is a tool to buy skills, and skills are what produce income. The stock market might give you 8 or 10% returns a year on average, but learning a high-income skill like copywriting, coding, video editing, or sales can give you a 1,000% return in a single year. Let's look at the math. Imagine you have $2,000 saved up. If you put that into the stock market, in a good year, you might make $200. That is nice, but it doesn't change your life. Now, imagine you take that same $2,000 and use it to buy a certification, a coaching program, or a high-quality camera to start a content business. That skill could help you land a better job or start a side hustle that pays you an extra $1,000 a month. That is $12,000 a year. That is a 600% return on your initial investment, and it repeats every single year.
If I could restart, I would stop trading my time for minimum wage as soon as possible. I would realize that my time is my most limited resource. Instead of working an extra 10 hours at a dead-end job just to make a few extra bucks, I would spend those 10 hours learning how to build a website or how to run digital ads. I would build a portfolio of skills that make me valuable to the marketplace. The more value you can provide, the more money you make. And the more money you make, the more you can funnel into your foundation and your accelerator. It is a flywheel. The faster it spins, the easier it gets. Now, having these three assets, the foundation, the accelerator, and the multiplier, is the setup. But the execution is where most people fail. You need a strategy to hold it all together, because life is going to try to derail you. The biggest trap waiting for you in your 20s is something called lifestyle creep. This is the silent wealth killer. It happens when your income goes up and your spending instantly rises to match it. You get a raise, so you buy a nicer car. You get a bonus, so you move into a more expensive apartment. You look rich, but you are actually broke because you aren't keeping any of the money. If I were 18 again, I would make a pact with myself. I would live like a student even when I started making real money. I would keep my expenses low and my investing high. The gap between what you earn and what you spend is your wealth building zone. Your job is to make that gap as wide as possible. I would automate everything. I wouldn't trust myself to remember to invest. I would set up my bank account so that the moment my paycheck hits, a percentage instantly goes to my investments before I even see it. If you don't see the money, you can't spend it. You learn to live on what is left over. This forces you to be disciplined without using willpower.
There is also a psychological battle you have to win. When you start this journey, you are going to feel lonely. Your friends will be buying brand new cars with debt. They will be going on expensive vacations they can't afford to impress people they don't even like. You will be driving a beat-up Honda and staying in on Friday nights to work on your side hustle or study. You will feel like you are falling behind, but you have to zoom out. You are playing a different game. They are playing the short game, looking for instant gratification. You are playing the long game, looking for ultimate freedom. I remember the pressure to fit in. I bought clothes I didn't need just to look cool. I wasted thousands of dollars trying to keep up with appearances. Looking back, nobody cared. Nobody cares what car you drive or what shoes you wear. They're too busy worrying about themselves. If I could go back, I would embrace being the weird one. I would embrace being the guy who is cheap now so he can be rich later. Because the truth is, the sacrifices you make from 18 to 25 will set the trajectory for the rest of your life. If you grind for just a few years while everyone else is partying, you can spend the rest of your life partying while everyone else is grinding. Let's be real for a second. The system is designed to keep you in debt. It is designed to make you a consumer, not an owner. Credit card companies, car dealerships, and banks spend billions of dollars on marketing to convince you that you need to buy things to be happy. They want you to make monthly payments forever. That is how they get rich. You have to rebel against that. You have to decide that you want to own your life more than you want to own stuff. So, here's the plan. You buy the S&P 500 to secure your future. You buy high-growth assets to accelerate your wealth. And you invest in your skills to maximize your income. It is simple, but it's not easy. It requires patience. It requires you to say no to things you want today so you can say yes to anything you want tomorrow. I want you to close your eyes for a second and imagine yourself 10 years from now. Imagine waking up in a house you own. Imagine checking your bank account and seeing more money than you could spend in a month. Imagine having the freedom to quit a job you hate or take a vacation whenever you want without asking a boss for permission. That life is possible. It is waiting for you, but it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by choice. It happens because you decided today, right now, to stop drifting and start building. Don't let your 18-year-old self down. Don't wake up at 40 with regret, wishing you had started sooner. You have the knowledge now. You have the blueprint. The only variable left is you. Are you going to scroll to the next video and forget everything you just heard? Or are you going to take action? Start with $5. Start with a book. Start somewhere. Your future self is begging you to make the right choice. If you found value in this video, if it sparked something in you, do me a favor. Hit that like button so this message can reach more people who need to hear it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to master your money and build a life of freedom. Share this with a friend who needs a wake-up call. We are in this together. I'll see you in the next one. Let's get to work.